My name is Emily Hart, and if you ask anyone in my family, they'll probably tell you I've always been the mature one, the quiet one, the peacemaker, the girl who could handle it. But what they never expected was that one day I'd stop handling it. One day I'd stop being quiet. And when that day came, they all watched from the sidelines as the girl they called weak rose higher than they ever imagined. But before we get there, let me tell you how it all started, with a scholarship and a lie. Growing up, I was never the golden child in our family. That title belonged to my cousin, Brooke. She wasn't my sister, but she might as well have been. Our moms are sisters, we lived just 10 minutes apart, and our families did everything together: holidays, cookouts, even vacations. Brooke was loud, pretty, always the center of attention. She was the kind of girl who could mess up and still get praised for trying. Me? I was the girl who had to get everything right just to be noticed. I didn't care much about popularity, but school was mine. I loved learning. I got straight A's. I volunteered. I tutored younger kids. And most importantly, I wanted out of our small town, out of the constant comparison, out of being the backup girl in someone else's spotlight. College was going to be my fresh start, and I was working hard to earn every step of it. By senior year, I had one goal: the Westland Honors Scholarship. It was a full ride, tuition, housing, even a laptop stipend, to one of the best universities in the state, and only 5 were awarded each year. I spent months preparing my application: perfect essays, perfect transcripts, recommendation letters, even an optional video. And when I got the email saying I was one of the 5 finalists, I burst into tears in the school bathroom. This was it. This was my shot. Then came the interview. It was in person, in a downtown office building. I wore a navy dress, pulled my hair back, and rehearsed my answers for days. The interview panel smiled as I walked in. I smiled back. I answered every question with confidence, passion, and honesty, and I walked out feeling proud, like I'd finally done something just for me. A week later, I got the rejection email. I stared at it for a full minute, thinking it had to be a mistake. Then I read it again. "We regret to inform you." No reason given, no explanation, just no. I was crushed, completely crushed. I locked myself in my room for hours, barely answering texts, not even coming down for dinner. It wasn't just about the money, it was about everything that scholarship represented: freedom, opportunity, proof that I was worth something. And now it was gone. I didn't tell anyone right away, not even my mom, but a few days later, she called me into the kitchen. Her face was tight, her lips pressed together like she was trying not to explode. "Emily," she said, "did you send something inappropriate in your scholarship video?" I blinked. "What? No. Why would you ask that?" She handed me her phone. On the screen was a group text between Brooke, her mom, and a few of their friends. Someone had posted a screenshot of my scholarship video, except it had been edited. In the video, it looked like I said, "I believe people like me deserve scholarships more than minority students." I felt the blood drain from my face. That was not what I said. I had said, "I believe students who work hard, regardless of race or income, deserve opportunities." Someone had spliced it, cut and twisted my words to make it sound cruel. And the worst part? The message under the video said, "So much for sweet little Emily, huh?" Maybe this is why she didn't get it. It was signed with Brooke's username. I couldn't breathe. I felt like the floor dropped out from under me. My cousin, my own flesh and blood, had edited my video, then leaked it. She made me look like a racist to a scholarship board, and they believed it. That's why I lost everything. I showed my mom the original video. She believed me, but when she called my aunt to confront her, you won't believe what happened. My aunt defended Brooke, said it was a dumb prank, said I was overreacting, that Brooke didn't mean for it to go that far. And then she had the audacity to say, maybe Emily should be the bigger person. Brooke already feels bad. The bigger person. That line stuck in my head like a knife. All my life, I was told to let things go, to smile, to be understanding, to not make a scene. But this wasn't spilled milk. This wasn't a small mistake. This was my future. Gone. Because someone didn't want me to shine. I wanted to scream. But instead, I made a decision. I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to cry. I was going to build something so big, so unstoppable, that they'd have no choice but to watch. No more being the bigger person. Now, I'd become the bigger story. Over the next few weeks, I turned my pain into purpose. I started applying to every other scholarship I could find, local ones, national ones, even ones for writing and community service. I used what happened as fuel. And guess what? I got two, not as big as Westland, but enough to cover most of my tuition. I also took on a part-time job at the campus library to fill the gap. No complaints, no self-pity. I worked. I studied. I kept my head down. And slowly, I started building the future I'd always wanted. Without help. Without shortcuts. Without a fake edited video to get ahead. Meanwhile, Brooke, she stayed in town, enrolled in community college, still posting selfies like she was the center of the world. But I noticed something different in her eyes. Guilt? Regret? I didn't care. Because I wasn't looking back anymore. I was just getting started. College was not easy. Not when you arrived with a chip on your shoulder the size of a mountain. Not when your dream school rejected you because of a lie someone else told. And especially not when you knew you could have had a full ride, if only your own cousin hadn't torched it out of jealousy. But I made it work because I had no choice. My name is Emily Hart. And while Brooke tried to destroy my future, she only pushed me harder. And now, in a place where nobody knew my name or my past, I was ready to rebuild myself from the ground up. The first few weeks on campus were overwhelming. Big lecture halls, fast-paced classes, new faces everywhere. I didn't go to parties or join clubs at first. I was focused on staying afloat, between classes and my part-time job at the campus library. Most nights, I didn't even eat in the cafeteria. I just took instant noodles back to my dorm and studied at my little desk until midnight. It was lonely, but loneliness was better than betrayal. One day in early October, my philosophy professor stopped me after class. "Emily," he said, "do you have a minute?" I froze. Had I done something wrong? "Your essays," he continued, "are some of the sharpest I've read this semester. You write with real clarity." I blinked. "Thank you, sir." He nodded. "There's a research assistant opening with the department. It's paid and the hours are flexible. You should apply." That night, I sat in my dorm and stared at the email for hours before submitting my application. I wasn't sure if I'd get it, but I did. And just like that, my world started to shift. Working for the department meant I got access to the faculty library, grad-level discussions, and private seminars. I soaked it all in like a sponge. Sometimes I stayed late just to organize shelves or help prep course packets. One of the older professors, Dr. Shaw, started calling me the quiet storm. She said I didn't say much, but when I did, people listened. That stuck with me. Because for the first time in a long time, I wasn't being told to be quiet. I was being told I belonged. In November, something unexpected happened. A speaker came to campus, a woman named Dr. Jordan Ellison. She was a best-selling author, a former lawyer turned activist, and the founder of a nonprofit that helped students from underrepresented communities gain access to education. She gave a talk titled, "When They Tell You to Be Silent, Speak Louder." The whole auditorium was packed. I sat in the back row, and every word hit me like thunder. She talked about being overlooked, talked about being sabotaged, talked about choosing to grow anyway, loudly, unapologetically, and publicly. Afterward, there was a Q&A session. I didn't plan to speak, but then I stood up. I didn't give names. I didn't give details, but I asked her a question that came straight from my chest. "What do you do," I said, "when someone tries to make you feel small in front of the people who could have changed your life?" She looked at me for a long moment, then said, "You build a new life so big, they can't look away." And then, You make sure the people they tried to impress know your name instead. The crowd clapped. But I was already crying, because I knew exactly what I had to do next. That night, I started writing. Not just essays, not just homework, but my story. I didn't name Brooke, but I told the truth. About the scholarship, the fake video, the rejection, and how I fought my way into a new beginning. I submitted it to a campus writing competition, thinking maybe a few people might read it. It won first place, and then it got picked up by the university's online magazine. That's when everything changed. The article went viral, not in the celebrity gossip way, but in the quiet, powerful, word-of-mouth way. Students started emailing me. Professors I didn't know stopped me on campus to shake my hand. Even Dr. Ellison shared the article on her foundation's page, writing, "This is why we speak. This is why we rise." I felt like I had finally stepped out of the shadows. For the first time in my life, I wasn't just someone's cousin. I wasn't the quiet girl who got hurt. I was Emily Hart. And people were finally listening. Around that same time, I got a call from a reporter at a regional education blog. They wanted to interview me for a piece about digital harassment and how edited content was being used to sabotage scholarship candidates. I agreed, anonymously. I didn't want revenge. Not yet. But I wanted the system to know. And within weeks, the Westland Scholarship Board released a quiet public update. They were reviewing all applications from the previous 2 years due to possible submission tampering. I didn't say anything to anyone. Not my parents, not my friends, not even Brooke, but I waited and watched. At Thanksgiving, I went home for the first time since the whole mess happened. I walked into the living room, and every pair of eyes turned to me like I was a stranger. My aunt looked nervous. Brooke wouldn't meet my eye. I sat down beside my mom and said nothing, until my aunt said, "We're just so proud of Brooke for staying out of drama this semester." I looked up, smiled slightly. "That's funny, because I'm doing really well in drama." Everyone blinked. My mom snorted into her cranberry juice. Brooke turned red. I didn't say anything else. But the silence in that room, it was better than applause. Later that night, Brooke cornered me in the hallway. "I saw your article," she said quietly. "And the interview." "Oh? You didn't use my name." "Didn't need to." She swallowed. "They reopened the scholarship case. You happy now?" I shrugged. "I didn't do it to be happy." Then I looked her dead in the eyes. "I did it because the truth deserved to be seen." She didn't say anything. She didn't apologize. But she walked away without another word. And that was enough for me. By Christmas, I had been invited to speak at 2 student panels, one diversity in education roundtable, and a women's leadership seminar. And all I kept thinking was, they told me to be the bigger person, so I became bigger than all of them. And now they have to watch. The new year started with an email I almost deleted. Subject line: "We'd like to feature your story." At first I thought it was spam, just another fake offer trying to sell me something. But when I clicked it open, my hands started shaking. It was from the Midland Women's Summit, a well-known annual event that featured entrepreneurs, writers, professors, and young women making a difference in their community. They had seen my article, the one that had gone viral on campus, and wanted me to join a panel about overcoming public betrayal. I stared at the screen for a full minute before calling my mom. "Do you think I should do it?" I asked. There was a pause on the other end of the line. Then she said, "Emily, I think the world needs to hear your voice." I spent the next month preparing. The panel was being held in a nearby city, in a large conference room, with over 500 attendees. Mine would come after a woman who escaped a cult, and before a former Olympic hopeful who suffered a career-ending injury. That terrified me. What if I wasn't dramatic enough? What if my story wasn't big enough? But then I remembered something Dr. Ellison said during her campus talk. "You don't need to bleed in public for your pain to be valid. Your story doesn't need to be a headline to be heard." So I practiced, not for perfection, but for truth. The day of the summit, I wore a soft blue dress, a simple gold necklace, and low heels. Nothing flashy, just me. As I walked to the podium, I glanced at the audience. So many faces, so many eyes. But I didn't look away. I began with the beginning. How I worked for years to earn a scholarship. How someone close to me twisted my words. how I lost my chance, and how I chose to rise anyway. No names, no shade, just facts. And then I ended with this. They told me to be the bigger person. So I did, not by staying silent, not by pretending I wasn't hurt, but by building a life so wide, so honest, and so full that they couldn't ignore it. The room went still, and then the applause came. After the panel, I was flooded with messages on Instagram and Twitter. Young women, parents, even teachers, all of them saying the same thing. Thank you for saying what I felt, but couldn't explain. One message stood out. It was from a girl named Kelsey. My sister told our whole school I cheated to win an art contest. I was humiliated. I lost friends. But seeing you speak today gave me hope that I'm not alone and that I don't have to stay silent forever. I replied, "You don't, and you're not." A week later, my university wrote a press release featuring the summit. They posted it on their homepage, right under the title, "From Victim to Voice, Emily Hart at Midland Women's Summit." And that's when the real twist began, because somehow that article made it back to Westland Scholarship Foundation. Yes, the same board that had rejected me because of that edited video. They reached out, not with an apology, but with a question. Would you be open to a meeting with our board to discuss scholarship fairness and digital accountability? It was a form of redemption, not the kind I expected, but the kind that mattered. The meeting happened on a Thursday afternoon, a small boardroom, 5 people, coffee and paper cups. I wore the same blue dress from the summit. They asked me about my story, about the video, about what they could have done better, and for the first time, I got to say everything calmly, clearly, and with proof. I showed them my original video, showed them the leaked one. They were shocked. One of the older board members looked furious. "This should have been caught," he muttered. The director of the foundation leaned forward. "Emily, we failed you, and we want to make it right." I expected a formal apology. Instead, I got something else. "We'd like to offer you a full scholarship, retroactive to your first semester. We'll also be updating our review policies based on what you've shared." I blinked. You're serious?" "Very. Even though I already made it work without you, especially because you did." I walked out of that meeting with tears in my eyes, not because I needed their money anymore, but because I finally had what I fought for all along: recognition, truth. Just when I got back to campus, I told my mom first. She cried harder than I did. Then I posted a short update on my blog. I didn't name names. I didn't shout. I just kept building. And when the truth finally came knocking, I opened the door. It got shared over 10,000 times in one day. Even Ellison commented with 3 simple words: "Proud of you." That weekend, I was invited to speak at another panel, this time at a nearby high school. The counselor said, "We have students dealing with bullying, family pressure, and quiet sabotage. They need to hear from someone who got through it." I walked into that gymnasium and saw rows of teenagers, some rolling their eyes, others slumped in their seats. But I started with a question. Raise your hand if you've ever had someone try to take credit for your hard work. Every hand went up. That was the moment I realized something huge. This wasn't just my story anymore. It was everyone's. A few days later, I received a handwritten letter in my dorm mailbox. No return address. Inside was one line: "I told the truth to my mom. I said I edited your video. I don't expect forgiveness, but I needed you to know." It wasn't signed, but I knew who it was from. Brooke. I didn't cry. I didn't get angry. I just folded the letter, placed it in a drawer, and left it there. Because I didn't need revenge anymore. I had something better. I had peace. Spring semester came quickly. By then, I was working with a small team to create an online resource hub for students who've been sabotaged, bullied, or publicly shamed. We called it Bigger Than That. It had guides, templates, emotional support tips, a forum, and stories. Lots of stories from people just like me. people who had their voices stolen and learned to speak anyway. By April, the university named me one of the 10 most influential students of the year. A photographer came to take my picture for the school paper. He asked me to stand on the front steps of the library, the same steps I used to sit on while eating microwave noodles alone. I smiled. Not the polite, half smile I used to give, a full one, the kind that came from deep inside. And as he clicked the shutter, I thought, they told me to be the bigger person, and I became bigger than they ever imagined, not to get even, but to move forward, while they stayed behind. By the end of spring semester, my name had reached places I never imagined. After the university spotlighted me in their most influential students feature, a flood of opportunities came in: small podcasts, local news stories, a few education advocacy blogs, even a guest article request from a youth activism website. Each one asked the same thing: tell us your story. And I did. Every time, calmly, honestly, with heart. But I always left one part out. I never named Brooke. Not because I wanted to protect her, but because I didn't need to. The story wasn't about her anymore. It was about how I kept going. In early May, I received an email that made me gasp. The subject line was simple: an invitation from the National Student Leadership Forum. At first, I thought it was a scam, but it wasn't. The NSLF was a yearly event in Washington that brought together student leaders, young innovators, and rising voices from across the country. I was invited to speak on a main stage panel alongside Ivy League scholars and student founders of nonprofits. They wanted me. I read the email 5 times. Then, I just sat on my dorm bed in silence, hand over my mouth, heart pounding. I had no rich parents, no famous background, just a story, and the courage to tell it. I called my mom immediately. She screamed so loud I had to pull the phone away from my ear. Emily, DC. That's huge. Oh my God, I need to go shopping. What does a proud mother wear to a national forum? I laughed through tears. You're coming with me? Are you kidding? I missed too much already. I'm not missing this. We made plans, booked flights. I started working on my speech. And as the date grew closer, I felt a strange mix of excitement and nerves, because this time, I'd be in front of hundreds of people. Government reps, university leaders, media, and if I stumbled, the whole country might see. The day of the flight, something unexpected happened. I got a message request on Instagram. It was Brooke. I stared at her name for several seconds before opening it. The message was short. I heard about DC, congrats. Just please don't talk about me. Please. I sat there staring at the screen, and for a moment, I felt nothing. No anger, no satisfaction. Just quiet. I didn't reply, because I didn't owe her anything. When we landed in Washington, the air felt different. Crisper, heavier, like something important was about to happen. My mom couldn't stop looking around. Emily, you're really here, in the Capitol, to speak about your own life. Crazy, right? Not crazy. Deserved. We checked into the hotel, and I barely slept that night. I kept pacing the room, reading over my talking points, wondering if I'd freeze on stage. But when morning came, I looked in the mirror, tied my hair back, and said out loud, "You earned this." The forum was held in a grand auditorium with red velvet chairs and marble floors. There were banners everywhere, with inspiring words like courage, innovation. Backstage, I met the other panelists: a robotics champion from Texas, a climate activist from Oregon, and a student from Yale who'd started a mental health app. They were all kind, supportive, but when they heard my story during our sound check, one of them whispered, "Oh wow, you're gonna make everyone cry." I smiled. Let's hope in a good way. When my turn came, I walked out to a packed room, hundreds of faces staring at me, cameras recording, a moderator ready to guide the questions. But once I sat down, the fear melted away, because I wasn't trying to impress anyone. I was just telling the truth. I shared the story of how someone close to me faked a video to ruin my chances, how I was told to be the bigger person, how I rose anyway. The moderator leaned forward. And how did that moment change you, Emily? I looked out at the crowd. It made me stop waiting for approval. It made me stop asking permission to take up space. And it made me realize that sometimes being the bigger person doesn't mean staying silent. It means rising so far that those who tried to crush you have to look up just to see your shadow. The room went quiet. Then someone stood and started clapping. Then another, until the whole auditorium was on their feet. After the panel, a woman in a sharp navy suit walked up to me. "Ms. Hart, I'm from the Department of Education. Would you be open to consulting on a new digital fairness initiative we're developing?" I blinked. "You mean? Like advising?" "Exactly. We're forming a student advisory group. We'd love to have your voice." I shook her hand, stunned. And just like that, another door opened. Back at the hotel, I collapsed on the bed, exhausted but glowing. My mom sat on the edge of the bed, holding her phone. "Emily, you should see what's happening online." I sat up. She showed me Twitter. The clip of my panel had been posted by the forum's official account. It had over 200,000 views in 2 hours. People were quoting my line. "Sometimes being the bigger person means rising so far they have to look up just to see your shadow." Influencers, educators, even celebrities were sharing it. Someone called it the quote of the year. I didn't know what to say. I just whispered, "They're listening." When I got back to campus, I was flooded with interview requests. Radio stations, podcasts, educational blogs. One podcast asked me if I wanted to do a special feature, a full hour where I could tell the longer version of my story. This time I agreed, and for the first time, publicly, I used Brooke's name. Not to shame her, but to show the reality of what happens when jealousy is weaponized. I said, "My cousin Brooke edited my scholarship video to make it seem like I said something I didn't. It cost me everything, and when I tried to speak up, I was told to be the bigger person. So I became bigger than every lie they told about me. And now, I speak not to get even, but to protect the next girl who's told to just smile and swallow it." It aired 2 weeks later and became the most streamed episode in the show's history. That night, Brooke texted me again. Just one line. "I guess now everyone knows." Again. I didn't respond, because this wasn't her story anymore. It was mine, and I was finally writing every word. One morning, while walking across campus, I saw a flyer taped to a bulletin board. It was for a student art exhibit. The theme? Rise. Below the title was a pencil drawing of a girl standing on a mountain, her face in shadow, but her arms lifted high toward the sun, and at the bottom a quote. My quote. "So far above the lies, they have to look up just to see your shadow." I stood there for a long time, just staring. Not in pride, not in shock, but in quiet awe of how far I'd come. From the girl who cried alone in her room, to someone whose story helped others stand up straighter. Later that semester, I was invited back to the very school I almost didn't get into, Wesleyan University, to speak to their new batch of scholarship finalists. Full circle. When I walked onto the stage in their auditorium, I looked out at the eager young faces in the crowd and smiled, because I wasn't just a guest speaker, I was a living reminder that even when people steal your moment, they can't steal your future. Only you can decide what comes next. And what came next for me was only the beginning. After my talk at Wesleyan University, something strange started happening. I began getting messages from old high school classmates, people I hadn't spoken to in years. Some were kind, some pretended we'd been close all along, and a few just wanted the gossip. "Is it true Brooke did that to you? You should totally write a book. Remember that time you got voted most likely to succeed? You really called it." It was weird being remembered all of a sudden, like I had become a mini celebrity in a world that once tried to erase me. But I didn't let it go to my head. I stayed grounded, focused, because my story wasn't finished. Not yet. One Friday afternoon, as I was leaving the student center with my friend Lauren, I got a call from my mom. She sounded off. "Emily, "Honey, I need to tell you something." I froze. "What's wrong?" "Your aunt's throwing a big birthday dinner for your grandfather next weekend. All the family's coming." "Okay? She's invited you." I laughed once, dry and sharp. "Really? After everything?" "She says it's time to put things behind us. She says, you've grown so much." I rolled my eyes. "No kidding." My mom lowered her voice. "I think she wants everyone to see who you've become. She doesn't say it out loud, but they all know what Brooke did." That gave me pause. Even Grandpa, especially him. I didn't say yes right away. In fact, I debated skipping the dinner altogether, but something in me stirred. I didn't want revenge. Not really, but maybe, just maybe, it was time they saw what being the bigger person really looked like. So I agreed. I told my mom I'd come, and I told myself I'd walk in with my head held high. Not for them, but for me. The dinner was held at a fancy steakhouse in downtown Charleston. Private room. Long table. Linen napkins. I wore a deep green jumpsuit with a blazer and simple earrings. Polished but powerful. When I walked in, conversation stopped. All eyes turned. A few mouths dropped open. Brooke was already there, sitting beside her mom. She looked up and then quickly looked away. My grandfather, tall, white-haired, and sharp-eyed, stood and opened his arms. "Emily," he said, loud and clear. "You made it." I hugged him. Wouldn't miss it. Dinner started off tense. Small talk. Nervous laughter. A few forced compliments. "So, we saw you on that education panel," one cousin said. "Very impressive," another added. I nodded politely, thanked them. My Aunt Brooke's mom kept glancing at me like she didn't know where to place me anymore. But I wasn't there to play games. I just smiled, ate my steak, and waited. It didn't take long for the conversation to shift. My grandfather, proud as ever, stood up with a glass of wine. "I just want to say something," he announced. Everyone hushed. "I've watched this family grow. I've seen you all take different paths. Some of you stumbled. Some of you soared." He looked at Brooke, then at me. "But Emily," he continued, raising his glass, "what you've built, despite what was taken from you, is something I'll never stop admiring." My chest tightened. He knew. Everyone knew. And no one was saying Brooke's name. But the truth hung in the air like thick smoke. Brooke shifted uncomfortably. "Grandpa, let me finish," he interrupted. "We all make mistakes, but what matters most is how we respond." And Emily responded with grace. He turned to me. "That's what real strength looks like." I swallowed hard, nodded once, then lifted my glass. "Thank you." After dessert, I stepped out to the balcony for air. Charleston's night air was warm and heavy, but quieter out there. I leaned against the railing, letting myself breathe, and then I heard the door open. Footsteps. "Brooke." "Emily," she said. I turned slightly, but didn't speak. She stepped closer. "I know you hate me." "I don't," I said quietly. She blinked. You don't? I don't have room for hate anymore? Takes up too much space." She bit her lip, nervous. I told them the truth about what I did, about the video. I didn't think you'd ever bounce back the way you did." "Yeah, well, I did. You didn't name me in the interviews. Didn't need to." She looked down. "I don't expect forgiveness." I finally faced her. "Good, because this isn't about you getting peace. It's about me having mine." We stood in silence. Then she said something that shocked me. "Do you remember when we were 10 and you beat me at the spelling bee?" I blinked. "Seriously. You didn't rub it in. You shared your candy prize with me after." "I never forgot that." I shook my head. "Brooke, this isn't the same thing. This isn't some childhood grudge. I know. You tried to erase my future, and when people told me to be the bigger person, what they meant was be quiet and keep the peace. But I didn't. I got louder. I built something real. without anyone's help. She nodded. I deserved worse. Maybe, but I'm not here for punishment. I paused. I'm here to show everyone, including you, that no one gets to define me but me. Then I walked back inside and left her standing on that balcony, alone. The next morning, I woke up to a message from my grandfather. You were powerful last night. I want to help fund your nonprofit. Let's talk. I stared at the screen. Nonprofit? He must have meant bigger than that. The online hub I'd started with 2 classmates. We hadn't even formalized it yet. But maybe it was time. Over the next few weeks, everything sped up. We filed the paperwork. We built a real website. We opened donations. And then I posted a short video. They told me to be the bigger person. So I became so big, they couldn't look away. It got 1-2 million views in 3 days. People started tagging their stories with bigger than that. It became a movement, a safe space. A warning to every bully, liar, and backstabber who thought they could win by playing dirty. Months later, I sat in a tiny office with my team, laptops open, coffee in hand, reading stories submitted by strangers across the country. One girl had been accused of cheating by her best friend to steal her spot on the volleyball team. One boy's cousin hacked his portfolio and deleted his scholarship entries. One girl's older sister forged her name on a loan application, ruining her credit. And every single one of them ended their story the same way. But I didn't stay down. I kept going. I became bigger than what they did, and I knew this was just the beginning. I never thought a hashtag could change my life. But bigger than that did. Within weeks of launching the nonprofit, our email inbox was flooded. Schools asked for speaker visits. Students asked for resources. Parents asked if they could donate. Teachers told us they wanted the video series for their classrooms. We weren't just a story anymore. We were a movement. And I wasn't just the girl who recovered from sabotage. I was the girl who built something no one could ignore. One Thursday morning, my phone rang while I was reviewing edits for our first educational video. It was from an unfamiliar area code. Hi, is this Emily Hart? Yes. Speaking. This is Jamie Chen with The Atlantic. We've been following your nonprofit, and we're working on a feature about Gen Z leaders who turned personal betrayal into national advocacy. Would you be open to an interview? I nearly dropped my phone. The interview happened the following week, via Zoom on a rainy Tuesday afternoon. Jamie was calm, respectful, and laser-focused. She asked thoughtful questions. I told her everything. The scholarship sabotage, the fake video, how I was told to be the bigger person, and how I chose a different path instead. Then she paused and asked, "Have you forgiven your cousin?" I hesitated. Then I said, "Forgiveness doesn't mean pretending nothing happened. It means choosing not to let it define me anymore." She smiled. That's powerful. The article went live 2 weeks later. The headline read, "The Girl Who Got Sabotaged and Built Something Big." It trended on X, Twitter, Facebook, even LinkedIn. I started getting speaking offers from major conferences, mentorship requests from students, even a call from the state education board. Our nonprofit's Instagram account grew from 5,000 to 92,000 followers in a month. Everything was moving so fast. And in the middle of it, Brooke reached out again. This time, it wasn't a text. It was a full email. Subject line, "Please read this." The message was long. She apologized again for what she did. She said she was in therapy now. She admitted she had always been jealous of me, even when we were kids. And then she said something unexpected. "I want to speak too, not to take away your spotlight, but to take responsibility. I want to tell people what I did and why I did it. Maybe someone else can learn from my mistake." I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I shut my laptop. For 3 days, I didn't answer her. Not because I was angry, but because I didn't know if I wanted her in this space I'd built. The space that was born from my own pain and turned into purpose. Would her voice make it better or mess it all up again? I talked to my team about it. My friend Lauren was honest. "Emily, this platform is yours. If you invite her into it, Make sure it's not because you still feel responsible for her healing. She was right. Brooke's guilt was not my burden. But I also thought about the mission of bigger than that. To rise above the damage, to teach others how to recover, and even redeem. So, I sent Brooke a reply. You can share your story, but not on my stage. Not yet. Start your own. Own your truth. Then we'll talk, she replied. Fair enough. Thank you. Weeks passed. One day, I got a link from an unknown Instagram account. It was called A Truth and Repair. Brooke's face filled the screen. She was sitting on a plain stool, barefaced, looking straight into the camera. My name is Brooke Adams. I'm the girl who ruined her cousin's scholarship to feel important. And this is my apology, not just to her, but to every girl I hurt, by making dishonesty seem like the easy way out. I watched the whole 9-minute video in silence. And when it ended, I exhaled. She didn't excuse anything. She didn't beg for sympathy. She told the truth. Finally, that same week, the Atlantic article went viral again. A news anchor quoted my words on national TV. Sometimes, being the bigger person doesn't mean keeping quiet. It means standing taller than the lies and letting the world see who really stayed standing. After that, we were invited to do a segment on Good Morning America, and I wasn't alone this time. They wanted me and one of our scholarship story participants, a high school senior named Kayla, who had been cyber-bullied off her debate team. She shared her story. I shared mine. And then we hugged on camera. When we left the studio, Kayla whispered, "You're the reason I didn't give up." I'll never forget that moment. Ever. Not long after, we got our first major grant, $250,000, to expand our curriculum and fund emergency resources for students facing digital abuse. We opened our first small office in DC. We hired 2 new interns, and one morning, I walked into our space, coffee in hand, and just stood there, smiling. I had built something real, from nothing but heartbreak, and it was only growing. Then came the email. It was from Westland University, the school I once dreamed of attending, the one that rejected me because of a faked video. Their new dean of student advocacy wanted me to come speak and consult on a new fairness committee focused on admissions transparency. I didn't even hesitate. I said yes. When I arrived on campus, the déjà vu hit me hard. The same buildings I once walked past and felt excluded from were now opening their doors to me. A student volunteer greeted me at the gate. "You're Emily Hart, right?" "Guilty. We're so excited you're here. Everyone's been talking about it all week." She handed me a visitor badge and walked me to the auditorium. As I stepped inside, a professor approached me. "Emily," he said warmly. "I was on the original admissions committee." My stomach twisted. "Oh? We watched your video, the fake one. We didn't know it was edited." "I'm sorry," I nodded. "Thank you. That means a lot," he added. "I've since shown your story to every new staffer to remind us, always verify, always ask questions." Later that afternoon, I stood on the same campus stage where they had once unknowingly erased me, and I told the full story. This time, I didn't hold back. I told them about Brooke, about the video, about the silence from my own family, and how I almost let it break me, until I realized silence helps the liar more than the victim. I ended with, "You can't control what people do to you, but you can control what you build from it." Standing ovation. Again. As I left the stage, someone stopped me in the hallway. It was Brooke. She wasn't supposed to be there, but she'd come anyway. She didn't say anything. She just held up her phone, showing me the A Truth and Repair account. "I passed 100,000 followers today." I nodded. "Good." Then she said, "It was never about being famous. I just wanted people to see that even the villain can change." I looked at her, really looked, and for the first time in years, I didn't see the girl who stole from me. I saw someone trying to become more. I extended my hand. "Welcome to the rebuild." The day the backlash started, I was in a cafe 2 blocks from our nonprofit's office, sipping iced coffee and answering emails. I had just wrapped up a Zoom call with a potential partner school in Chicago when I opened Instagram. My DMs were flooded, and not in a good way. Screenshots, tweets, tags. Someone had made a video, a call out, accusing me of exaggerating my story for clout. The title? Emily Hart, the girl who lied her way to fame. My stomach dropped. I clicked the link, and there it was. A 10-minute video by a self-proclaimed truth-seeking content creator named Cody Parks. He had over 300,000 followers on YouTube and a reputation for exposing influencers. His video showed clips from my interviews, spliced with commentary, dramatic music, and bold text flashing words like suspicious, unverified, and still no proof. He even included Brooke's truth and repair video, twisting her words to suggest I had manipulated her into confessing for my own gain. It's interesting, Cody said, how every detail of her life is just a little too perfect. Betrayal, redemption, fame. Convenient, huh? I sat frozen, shaking. Not from fear, but from rage. Within hours, the video had racked up 1.6 million views. Comments flooded in. Some were supportive, but others, they were brutal. Another grifter. Great. This is why you never trust sob stories. So her cousin posted a meme or something. Big deal. Everyone's a victim now. Yawn. Our nonprofit's account lost 3,000 followers in 2 days. Donations slowed. And worst of all, schools started emailing to reschedule or postpone our event. I felt like I was watching everything I built slip through my fingers. And all because some guy behind a camera decided my story was too convenient. I went quiet for a day. I didn't answer texts. I didn't post. I didn't go into the office. I lay in bed, scrolling through every cruel comment, every conspiracy theory thread, every tweet calling me a fraud. And somewhere in the middle of that, I thought, is this what being the bigger person gets you? I wanted to scream, cry, disappear. But then I got a text from Brooke. Just one sentence. Don't let him steal what I took years to finally admit. I stared at it for a long time. And then, I stood up. That night I went live. No script, no makeup. Just me in a hoodie, sitting at my kitchen table. I looked straight into the camera. Hi, it's Emily Hart, and I'm not going to waste time defending what's already been proven. Yes, I was sabotaged. Yes, my cousin faked a video that cost me a scholarship. Yes, I built something from it. Something I'm proud of. And if that makes me too perfect for some people to believe, that's not my problem. I leaned in. But let me be clear, I don't owe anyone trauma on demand. I don't need to cry on camera to be taken seriously, and I don't need permission from internet strangers to exist. I built bigger than that to help others speak when they were told to be silent. So if you've ever been told your story doesn't matter, I see you. I believe you, and I'm not going anywhere. I ended the video, posted it, turned off my phone, and waited. By morning, the tide had started to turn. People began reposting my live I Stand with Emily trended. Dozens of students who had worked with our nonprofit posted their own stories, tagging us and saying how we helped. One teacher wrote, Emily Hart gave my students a space to speak. Cody Parks gave them a reason to fear. I know who I believe. Even Brooke posted again. She said, I ruined her future once. She built it anyway. Now someone's trying again. Don't let them win. That one post, it went viral. Even Cody's own followers turned on him, saying he had crossed a line. By the weekend, he released a clarification video. Not an apology, of course, but a vague statement about wanting a conversation, not destruction. But the damage had already done something unexpected. It made my story stronger. Because now, I wasn't just someone who rose from betrayal. I was someone who survived public doubt and kept standing. The following week, I flew to New York. I'd been invited to speak at a youth media summit as the keynote. The topic? When they try to shrink you. I stood in front of 800 young people, students, educators, creators, and I told them, The truth. There will always be someone who wants to shrink your story to fit their comfort. Someone who says, be quieter, or be nicer, or don't make it about you. But when you choose to speak anyway, when you refuse to shrink, you don't just stand up for yourself. You light the path for everyone else too. I finished to a standing ovation. And in that moment, I realized the bigger person doesn't just walk away. She walks forward, so loudly, so brightly, that even the ones who tried to silence her have to watch her rise. Back at our office, my team surprised me with a framed print. It was a quote from one of my early interviews. They told me to be the bigger person, so I outgrew their lie, and I'm still growing. Underneath, they added a plaque, founder, fighter, fire starter. I didn't cry, but my voice caught in my throat when I read it aloud. Later that night, I checked my email. A message had come in from a girl in Atlanta named Sophie. She wrote, "My best friend hacked my notes and told the teacher I copied her. I almost failed the year. My parents didn't believe me. No one did. Until I found your page. Your story helped me start mine. Thank you." And just like that, I remembered why I started all this. It wasn't for applause. It wasn't for revenge. It was for every Sophie who was told to be quiet when someone hurt her, so she could grow anyway. It was a warm morning in May when the letter arrived. Thick paper, gold stamp, formal. It wasn't from a magazine, or a sponsor, or a fan. It was from the Jameson Scholarship Foundation. The same board that had rejected me all those years ago. The same one that believed a faked, manipulated video over the years of work I'd put into becoming the best version of myself. And now, they wanted me to come speak. We are hosting our annual Scholars Gala this June in Atlanta, and would be honored to have you as our keynote speaker. I stared at it for a long time. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't even nervous. I was just ready. The gala was held at a massive hotel ballroom. Crystal chandeliers, gold chairs, waiters in tuxedos. I arrived wearing a simple navy blue gown and silver earrings, elegant, mature, unshakable. My friend Lauren came with me. So did Kayla, the high school student we helped who now interned part-time for bigger than that. Brooke didn't come, but she sent flowers to my room. You deserve this moment. Say it loud. Backstage, I waited as they introduced me. Our next speaker is the founder of one of the fastest growing youth nonprofits in the country, a change maker, a survivor, a name we once overlooked. Let's welcome Emily Hart. The room exploded in applause. I walked to the podium slowly, head high, looked out at the faces in front of me, and began. 5 years ago, I applied for the Jameson Scholarship. I was valedictorian, president of my debate club, a finalist in the National Young Leaders Competition. But you didn't choose me. You received a video. It showed me at a party making comments I never made, laughing at things I never said, and you believed it. I paused. I wasn't angry. I was devastated. I thought everything I had worked for had been erased with one lie. And when I cried to the people I trusted most, they told me to be the bigger person. What they meant was, be quiet, don't cause drama, don't fight back. But I chose to redefine what it means to be the bigger person. I built something bigger than the lie, bigger than the pain, bigger than the silence. I took a breath. And now, that work has reached over 2 million young people. It has helped students fight cyberbullying, academic sabotage, and reputation damage. It has given them tools I never had. And it started because someone said, be the bigger person. And I said, watch me. The room was silent. Then one man, a scholarship board member, stood and began to clap. Others followed. Soon the entire room was on their feet. Tears, cheers, respect for the girl they once cast aside, who had become something they could no longer ignore. After the speech, the board chair approached me. He looked older than I remembered, softer. Emily, he said, on behalf of the foundation, we owe you an apology. We failed to protect the integrity of the process, and we failed you. I nodded. Thank you. That means more than you know, he added. If you're open to it, we'd like to name a new leadership grant after your organization. The bigger than that fellowship. I blinked. Seriously? Seriously? I took a moment, then said, only if it comes with training for your board on digital deception and how to actually verify what they're watching. He smiled. Deal. Later that night, as the gala wrapped up, I found a quiet corner in the lobby. Just me and my thought. Kayla joined me with a slice of cake. You killed it out there. Thanks, I said, with a laugh. Still feels surreal. She looked at me. Do you ever wish it never happened? The fake video. The betrayal. I thought about it. Then shook my head. No, because if it hadn't happened, I might have gone to school, graduated quietly, and gotten a normal job. I wouldn't have met you, or helped the others. I wouldn't have built this. Sometimes, I continued, the worst thing someone does to you becomes the best reason to change everything. 2 months later, I stood in the same high school where it all began. Same walls, same hallway, same lockers. But this time, I wasn't a student. I was a guest speaker, a returning success. The principal walked me into the auditorium. Hundreds of students filled the seats. Many of them were young girls with wide eyes and notebooks. The principal handed me the mic. Emily, they're all yours. I looked out at the crowd, smiled. Hi, my name's Emily Hart. And when I was your age, someone tried to erase everything I'd worked for with a single video. But I didn't disappear. I grew. As I spoke, I saw one girl in the front row, silently wiping a tear, another whispering yes under her breath, and I knew this was why I did it, not to be known, but to make sure they were seen. After the event, a small group of students came up for pictures. One of them, a shy girl named Natalie, whispered, "My cousin told everyone I had mental problems when I got the lead role in the school play. I almost quit. But your story made me stay." She handed me a bracelet she made, beads spelled bigger. I hugged her. And as I left the building, I felt lighter than I had in years. That night, I wrote a final post on Instagram. To anyone who was ever told to be quiet, to anyone who was told to be the bigger person, while someone else got away with hurting you, here's the truth. You don't have to shrink to make others comfortable. You don't have to stay small to avoid being called difficult. You are allowed to grow loudly. And the world, it's going to watch you do it. Bigger than that. My story is mine. They tried to erase me. I wrote the next chapter.